You're listening to WCJC Digital Radio, Detroit, Michigan. WCJC Digital Radio is a God Corporation network helping creators create what's creative. Now we're going live with King Calvin Jones Jr., a member of the U.S. Press Association, right here, Detroit, Michigan. What's happening, everybody? Good evening. This is King Calvin Jones Jr., member of the U.S. Press Association. I want to talk about some very detailed information. On today, I went around and I traveled in some places, and I've got different responses as I went into these places. It just so happened that there was a check that I just received, but anyhow, I was able to go from place to place. Some of them gave me different days. Some said 5, some said 180, some said 30. Some just didn't know whether their time was truthful or not. Then I went into the local Secretary of State here. And now knowing that they have all your documents in a computer file, from the last month that you went, and they have to send you out an identification card in the mail when you applied for it the last time. And so what happens is they said they don't have no documentation in that. Now, I personally don't believe in that. Once it's in the system, unless the computers are shut down, there's always some way to recuperate the truth. There's always a way to bring out the truth concerning what is supposed to be legit, for all identification purposes. So now it becomes an identity crisis, because one could say, why is it that I had to keep doing this when I talk to one of y'all, it's 180 days for a person to have to do this with their identification. Then another person say, well, you got to pay for this. But I say, okay, what happened to the last identification card that I did not receive? And I do show you 3 pieces of identification. Something is crooked about that. And further investigation needs to be looked up with that, because if I give you 3 identifications the last time and you can document it that you gave me a temporary ID there, when I gave you 3 pieces of documentation this time, there should be no problem. It should pull right up, whether it's a temporary or the actual ID. You're supposed to show the exact date that it was showed up at the address, or give the individual an opportunity and waive all fees for the simple fact the fee was already paid the last time for the specific identification. Now, this is state-wise. Now, there's some crookedness going on in those places, because you can't tell me that you don't have it documented or you just lost it. Well, everything in here need to have a shutdown then. That's what need to happen. All electricity need to shut down until we can figure out where the last documentation of all the paperwork went. You know, you're not going to make somebody continue to play these games with these philosophers in business that want to go around here doing all this negative stuff, manipulative and deception stuff, all for the love of the money. Now, there ain't no way possible that you're going to tell me to go keep doing this, and I did it the last time, to make these researches, and this is what people need to find out and need to speak up more about. There's no way possible that you're going to have somebody to keep doing the same old stupid stuff all over again. It's dumb. The system's dumb. Everything that they've been doing needs to be investigated. And so that's what I'm going to be doing of the U.S. Press Association. We're going to get down to the nitty gritty about what's going on in these behind backdoor deals in these cities and state, organizations. And they need to be looked up, and these people need to be thoroughly investigated one by one, and I'm looking to actually do that investigation. So stay tuned for further investigation right here on the U.S. Press Association. We will be doing thorough investigation on everybody that's in a high place, that's supposed to have been doing right. You got these documentation, these files in your computers, and you don't know all of a sudden what the last photo, what the last stuff was. Something wrong with that. They need to be looked into thoroughly, and if they need help, I sure will help you out, figure out where it went at. Because you got a problem like y'all done used some deletion, or you got Alzheimer's in these positions, and if you got Alzheimer's, we need to do an Alzheimer check, and that can be done simply to see if some of y'all need to be some of these people need to be reevaluated in these places. I don't care where you came to, I don't care where you went to school at. If you wicked and you're in these positions, you need to sit down and you need to be thoroughly investigated. Maybe the FBI can assist, and some other organizations to look further into this. But there's no way that this is going on in these cities and these states. They already said there was a ballot problem. All these things are happening in the state and the city. This should not be going on. You already got crookedness in high places, and these people continue to do evil, from the low places, and even you got to deal with everyday people who are already doing evil. So this thing needs to be looked into very thoroughly. And so the U.S. Press Association, I guess, and some other news networks, probably already did a thorough investigation. And we're looking to do even more on the behalf of the U.S. Press Association to find out where all of these files going and where all of these documentations ending up. Because if y'all don't happen to have them, and then people keep on giving you information, and then all of a sudden, how do other people have them and y'all don't have them, and y'all the state and y'all the city? Something wrong with that, and that needs to be looked into thoroughly. I mean, really thoroughly. So I'm calling forth, and organizations that investigate thoroughly in these areas concerning this, these missed documents. It's been happening in all different departments in these city and state departments, which are ridiculous because people are putting their trust and their information into these city and state organizations that are supposed to be legitimate to people, and people are supposed to trust them with the information, even though we know there is ins and outs to all of that. But within the next week, we're going to figure out where all this stuff, all this money went in this city, where all these wicked files that they deleted, where did this stuff go? And it's got to be, they should have a time period like 24 hours to 72 hours to come up with this mess, or, face a penalty because you're in a position to hold on to public information. You should not be around here buying and selling information and then you don't know where information is. And that's what I believe some of these organizations locally and statewide are doing, selling it off, and then we act like it's an issue. That's even with the election. There is some backdoor stuff, some behind the door stuff, corporations making, deals here and there. That's why we get these scam artists to make these phone calls. Now they can make phone calls on your, they can call you now and your phone and tell you it's a scam likely. But how they know if it's a scam unless they listening, to you, and you ain't told them nothing? So are your rights already violated? If so, then you don't have no freedom of speech, because that constitutional right has secretly been taken away from you, just like the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms. So all of your constitutional rights have pretty much been, thrown out on the deck somewhere, so it's time for people to begin to voice their opinions. And it's like the saying, forever hold, speak now and forever hold your peace. Some people, they speak, but they not being heard to the capacity that it needs to be heard on. And so what we want to do, because I know it's happening all over, locally, regionally, nationwide. It took people to do thorough investigations on the Flint water crisis. They had to stay on their head until they got down to the bottom of who did what with that Flint water crisis. And the same thing today has to go on in all departments. Thorough investigations to people who have this information. What are you doing with it? We know what the little man's doing in the community, but what are you doing in the big places? What are you doing with people's records? Why come people got to keep giving you all this and then you don't know where it is? But every other department keeps files all the way back from the last 10 years. And now you talking about you don't know where the last files went. Something wrong with that. And you always want to keep up to date what other people was doing and not what, you're supposed to be doing as a city or a state worker. I believe if you're a city or a state worker or any type of work dealing with public people, you ought to sign a confidentiality that you ain't doing no sidewalk, backdoor deals with identification. With all these secret societies, folks is joining, stuff coming up missing all of a sudden. But I still think there needs to be some accountability even in that perspective, because you still should not be trying to manipulate the system and in no shape, form, or fashion, when it comes to the public's information, unless you've been given a written consent by the